As we enter our golden years, the way we spend our time becomes more crucial than ever. We've worked hard, cared for others, and built lives full of rich experiences and wisdom. Now, it's time to protect what we've earned, the peace of mind that comes with knowing who we are, what we've accomplished, and the relationships that truly matter. Yet, not all family bonds are nurturing. Some can drain us, leaving us emotionally exhausted and questioning our worth. In this video, we'll explore 5 types of relatives you should absolutely reconsider visiting in your later years. These are the relationships that can undermine your happiness, erode your sense of peace, and leave you feeling unappreciated or even resentful. But remember, it's not about abandoning family. It's about setting healthy boundaries to preserve your well-being. You deserve to surround yourself with people who lift you up, not weigh you down. So, take a moment to reflect on your own family dynamics. And as always, if you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others who might need this message. 1. The constantly negative relative. Begin with an engaging description of the emotional toll. A constantly negative. The presence of a constantly negative relative can feel like an unending storm cloud in an otherwise peaceful sky. At first it might be manageable, the occasional complaint or moan about life's difficulties. But over time, these interactions can become a heavy burden, draining your energy and leaving you emotionally exhausted. In your later years, when you've earned the right to focus on peace, reflection, and joy, a negative relative can feel like an anchor, pulling you down with every conversation. What's worse is that this relentless negativity often feels personal, even though it may not have anything to do with you. For older adults who have already navigated the challenges of life, dealing with a constantly negative relative can feel like walking through life's final chapter under a dark cloud. These relatives might talk endlessly about their misfortunes, complaints, or frustrations, focusing on what's wrong in the world rather than what's right. They seem to find fault in everything: the weather, politics, even family gatherings that should be moments of warmth and connection. Their perspective on life is clouded by pessimism, and no matter how much you try to shift the conversation towards something positive, they always find a way to bring it back to their complaints. This constant barrage of negativity takes its toll. It wears you down emotionally, gradually eroding your sense of well-being. You may find yourself feeling drained even after a short visit, questioning whether it's worth the energy you've invested in trying to help or listen. When you're surrounded by negativity, it's easy for your own mindset to shift. You start to internalize their grim view of the world, and before long, you might find yourself feeling anxious, disheartened, or even hopeless. You might notice that after spending time with this relative, you feel emotionally depleted, as though their bad mood has seeped into your own. As we grow older, the importance of maintaining emotional well-being becomes clearer. Our physical and mental energy is finite, and we must be careful with how we allocate it. Time becomes a precious commodity, one that can no longer be wasted on relationships that drain us. This is why protecting our peace, emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually, becomes essential. It's not selfish to protect your well-being. It's an act of self-care and self-respect. Setting boundaries with a negative relative is not about cutting them out of your life completely, but rather about preserving your own mental peace. It's about recognizing that you cannot change their outlook or fix their problems, no matter how much you care for them. What you can control, however, is how much of their negativity you allow into your life. You don't have to engage with their complaints or allow their negativity to dictate your mood. One of the first steps in dealing with a negative relative is to gently redirect the conversation when it turns towards complaints. If they start to focus on something negative, you can steer the discussion towards something neutral or positive. For example, if they start talking about politics or family disputes in a way that feels draining, you might say something like, "I know that's tough, but have you seen the beautiful flowers in the garden this year?" Or, "Let's talk about something that lifts us both up. What's something good that's happened recently?" If they persist, it's important to be firm yet compassionate in setting boundaries. You might say something like, "I care about you, but I'm in a space right now where I want to focus on the positive things in life. I hope you can understand that." If they continue to push, it's okay to gently but firmly excuse yourself. You don't have to stay in an environment that feels toxic or draining, even if that person is family. Another essential element in maintaining your peace is learning to limit the time you spend with this negative relative. While it may feel awkward or even guilt-inducing to shorten a visit, remember that your mental and emotional well-being are just as important as your family obligations. Set a time limit for your visits or plan for an exit strategy if things begin to feel too overwhelming. By doing this, you not only protect yourself, but also set an example of self-respect for your family. In addition to setting boundaries, it's vital to surround yourself with people who lift you up, those who bring positivity into your life and make you feel seen, valued, and supported. Focus on nurturing relationships with those who share your outlook on life, who appreciate the value of laughter, gratitude, and joy. These are the people who will help you cultivate a sense of peace, even when negativity surrounds you. Lastly, don't forget the power of forgiveness. While it may seem counterintuitive when dealing with someone who is constantly negative, forgiveness can be an important part of healing. This isn't about excusing their behavior, but rather releasing the emotional hold that their negativity has over you. Forgiveness allows you to let go of any resentment or frustration that might have built up over time, freeing you from the emotional toll of their outlook. By forgiving, you also release yourself from the burden of trying to change them or fix their mindset. Instead, you can focus on protecting your own peace and fostering the kind of relationships that nourish your soul. In the end, your golden years are meant to be a time of fulfillment, joy, and contentment. You deserve to spend this precious time with people who appreciate you, uplift you, and share in the beauty of life with you. It's okay to set boundaries with relatives whose negativity undermines your peace. By doing so, you protect your emotional well-being, create space for positive relationships, and ensure that your later years are filled with love, laughter, and the serenity you've worked so hard to earn. 2. The self-centered relative. There are few things more disheartening in old age than the feeling of being overlooked or unappreciated, especially by family members who should, in theory, be the ones who see and value us the most. A self-centered relative can make you feel invisible, as though your own needs, stories, and perspectives don't matter. Instead of engaging in a two-way relationship where both parties share and care for one another, interactions with a self-centered relative are often one-sided, leaving you emotionally drained and feeling insignificant. In a family dynamic where one person constantly dominates the conversation, every interaction becomes a monologue rather than a dialogue. Whether it's about their personal achievements, struggles, or even trivial concerns, a self-centered relative seems to always steer the focus back to themselves. Even if they ask about you, the conversation quickly turns back to their needs or experiences, and you're left feeling dismissed and unimportant. Over time, This can erode your sense of self-worth, especially when you've spent a lifetime caring for and supporting others. As we grow older, the desire for meaningful connections becomes even more pronounced. The years have taught us the value of time, and with that comes a deeper appreciation for relationships that offer mutual respect and understanding. The act of giving to others, whether it's emotional support, time, or effort, has always been a cornerstone of family bonds. But in old age, when we've given so much, there is a quiet, unspoken expectation to be seen, heard, and valued in return. This is where reciprocity in family relationships becomes crucial. When you've spent your life supporting and nurturing others, whether as a parent, grandparent, or sibling, it can be incredibly painful to feel as though that care is not reciprocated. A self-centered relative may not intentionally dismiss your needs or feelings, but their behavior has a way of making you feel unappreciated. Their constant focus on themselves doesn't leave space for you to share your own thoughts, struggles, or joys. And the longer you endure this dynamic, the more disheartening it becomes. You might start to wonder if your efforts have ever been truly acknowledged, or if your well-being has ever been a priority to them. It's important to remember that, just as you've given so much to others throughout your life, you deserve relationships that are grounded in reciprocity. You deserve to be seen not just as a caregiver, but as an individual with your own needs, dreams, and emotions. Your voice matters, and your experiences are valuable. When a relationship feels one-sided, it can cause feelings of isolation and frustration, especially when it comes to family, where the expectation is that love and care flow both ways. A self-centered relative might not even realize how their behavior is affecting you. Their actions are often driven by an inner need for validation or a sense of control over their surroundings. They might feel insecure or unfulfilled, and focusing on themselves is their way of seeking comfort or attention. While this understanding can foster some empathy, it does not mean that you should accept or enable this imbalance. It's crucial to recognize that just because they are family does not mean you must tolerate behavior that diminishes your sense of worth. Setting boundaries with a self-centered relative can be challenging, but it's an important step in protecting your emotional well-being. One of the first things to acknowledge is that you cannot change their behavior. You cannot force them to become more considerate or attentive to your needs if they are not willing to do so. What you can control, however, is how much of their self-centeredness you are willing to absorb. Start by asserting your own voice in conversations. When they begin to dominate the discussion, it's important to take the opportunity to share your own thoughts and experiences. You don't need to compete for attention or try to outshine them, but simply claiming your space in the conversation is an act of self-respect. If they continue to interrupt or steer the conversation back to themselves, it's okay to assertively but politely remind them that you would like the chance to be heard. For example, "I'd really like to tell you about something that happened to me this week," or "I appreciate hearing about your day, but I've got some things I'd like to share too." In some cases, it might be necessary to limit your time with this relative. If their behavior is consistently draining, or if your needs are always overlooked, stepping back from the relationship might be the healthiest choice. You don't have to cut them off entirely, but you can choose to prioritize relationships that offer mutual respect and support. Spend more time with those who listen, engage, and show a genuine interest in your well-being. You might also find it helpful to approach the situation with compassion while still maintaining your boundaries. If you feel it's appropriate, you could gently bring up the issue with your self-centered relative. Let them know how their behavior makes you feel and explain that you need more balance in the relationship. You might say something like, "I value our relationship, but I've been feeling a bit overlooked lately. I would appreciate it if we could share the conversation a little more equally." While they may not change overnight, expressing your feelings can be an important step in fostering understanding. It's also essential to fill your life with relationships that bring joy and fulfillment. Seek out family members, friends, or even new connections who appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you can give them. These are the relationships that nourish your soul and allow you to experience the kind of mutual love and care that you've always given to others. You've earned the right to be seen, valued, and celebrated, and it's never too late to create new connections that reflect this. Ultimately, the self-centered relative is a reminder that our time and energy are valuable, and we deserve to invest them in relationships that bring us joy and fulfillment. You've spent your life pouring into others, and now it's time for those connections to be reciprocal. Don't let anyone diminish your worth, even if they're family. You have the right to prioritize yourself, to seek out the relationships that uplift you, and to make space for those who value your contributions. In doing so, you'll ensure that your later years are filled with the respect, love, and appreciation you deserve. 3. The drama maker. The drama maker is one of the most exhausting types of relatives to navigate, especially as we grow older. Their need for conflict seems unrelenting, as though peace and calm are foreign concepts. For older adults who have spent their lives dealing with the chaos and stresses of work, family, and daily life, the desire for peace and serenity in their later years is paramount. Unfortunately, the drama maker thrives on discord, stoking fires of conflict, stirring up emotions, and pulling family members into unnecessary turmoil. Drama makers are often the relatives who never seem satisfied unless there is some sort of crisis or drama unfolding around them. They might gossip about others, exaggerate situations to make them more intense, or provoke arguments to keep the emotional temperature high. Whether it's family disputes, exaggerated personal struggles, or stirring up trouble with trivial matters, they seem to create drama out of thin air. Their actions might range from starting arguments to reviving old wounds that everyone else has long since moved past. Whatever the situation, the drama maker has a knack for making everything feel like a bigger deal than it really is, and their need for attention and control only intensifies the problem. As we enter our later years, many of us simply want peace. We want to enjoy the fruits of our labor, quiet moments, reflections on the past, and time spent with those we love. The thought of being dragged into petty conflicts or family squabbles feels utterly exhausting. The emotional turmoil caused by a drama maker can quickly overshadow the calm we've worked so hard to build. It disrupts our sense of harmony and, if allowed to persist, can take a profound toll on our mental and physical health. The stress created by constant family conflict doesn't just hurt emotionally, it can manifest physically as well, leading to anxiety, high blood pressure, disturbed sleep, and even exacerbating chronic health conditions. When we engage with a drama maker, we're often left feeling drained, like we've just run a marathon, even though the situation was entirely avoidable. Being pulled into the drama can make us feel tense, anxious, and powerless. Over time, these interactions can take a cumulative toll on our energy and sense of well-being. It's easy to feel as though we're trapped in their cycle, with no way to escape the constant chaos they generate. Understanding the dynamics of a drama maker is crucial to breaking free from their grasp. Often, their behavior stems from a need for attention or validation. They might feel insecure or unloved and create drama as a way of drawing focus to themselves. They might enjoy the feeling of being in control of a situation, even if it means stirring up negative emotions in others, Unfortunately, their actions aren't just harmful to them. They have a ripple effect, causing distress for everyone around them. It's important to recognize that while we can have empathy for the underlying reasons behind a drama maker's behavior, we cannot allow ourselves to become collateral damage in their need for attention. Setting boundaries is key to protecting our emotional and physical well-being. The first step is recognizing that we don't have to engage with the drama. We are not obligated to get involved in every argument or conflict they start. Sometimes, the best thing we can do is to simply not react. When a drama maker begins to stir the pot, instead of jumping in and feeding the fire, take a step back. Refuse to take the bait. You might even say something like, "I don't think this is the right time or place for this conversation," or "I'm not comfortable getting involved in this." This can be a powerful way to assert your need for peace and disengage from the situation. It's also helpful to remind yourself that the drama maker's behavior isn't a reflection of you. You don't have to take responsibility for their emotions or their need for conflict. Another strategy for setting boundaries is to limit your time spent with the drama maker. If you know that their presence at family gatherings will lead to conflict or stress, it's okay to set limits on how much time you spend with them. If a family gathering or event turns into a dramatic spectacle, feel free to politely excuse yourself. You don't have to stick around for the drama to unfold. If you're on the phone with a drama maker and they begin escalating a conversation into conflict, it's perfectly acceptable to say, "I'm not comfortable with where this conversation is going. I'll talk to you later." Setting these boundaries is an act of self-care and will help preserve your emotional energy. Beyond limiting contact, it's also important to surround yourself with people who offer emotional support and positivity. Spend time with family members and friends who value peace, respect, and harmony. These are the people who will help restore your balance and give you the emotional strength to resist the pull of drama. Nurturing these positive relationships will make it easier to stay grounded and centered, even when the drama maker tries to stir things up. Forgiveness is another essential element in dealing with a drama maker. It might seem counterintuitive to forgive someone who creates so much turmoil, but forgiveness can release you from the emotional toll that their behavior has taken. It's important to remember that forgiveness isn't about excusing their actions, but rather about freeing yourself from resentment and anger. By letting go of those negative feelings, you can protect your own peace and create emotional space to focus on relationships that bring you joy. Ultimately, your later years should be a time to savor the quiet, enjoy the people who bring you peace, and reflect on the beautiful moments you've experienced throughout your life. You deserve to spend your time and energy in ways that nourish your spirit, not in endless conflict. By recognizing the drama maker's behavior for what it is, an attempt to control and manipulate the emotional landscape, and setting boundaries accordingly, you can ensure that the drama no longer dominates your life. You have the power to choose peace, to step back from situations that threaten your emotional well-being, and to invest your time in relationships that bring you joy and fulfillment. You've earned the right to live your golden years in serenity, surrounded by those who respect and appreciate you. Don't let anyone take that from you. 4. The judgmental relative. Judgment from family members can be one of the most painful types of criticism to endure, especially when it comes from someone you once cared for deeply. There's a unique sting to judgment when it comes from those we've shared our lives with, the ones we've given our time, love, and sacrifices. Family relationships are meant to be nurturing and supportive, but when they become laced with judgment, it can feel like a betrayal. The words of a judgmental relative can chip away at your self-esteem, causing you to question your choices, your worth, and even your life's path. As we age, we inevitably accumulate a wealth of experiences, some of which may not align with the expectations or opinions of others. The choices we make in our later years, whether about how we spend our time, our health, or even our finances, are deeply personal. These decisions are shaped by decades of learning, growing, and surviving. We have earned the right to live authentically, free from judgment. Yet, some family members, instead of celebrating our wisdom and growth, continue to hold us to standards that no longer serve us. A judgmental relative might express disapproval in subtle ways. Comments about how you're managing your retirement, your health, or even the way you choose to spend your days. These comments may be wrapped in the guise of concern, but they often leave us feeling small, unworthy, or misunderstood. It's a painful experience when someone who should be supporting you instead makes you feel like you're doing something wrong. Their judgments may carry with them the weight of old resentments, unspoken expectations, or even a desire to impose their own worldview onto yours. What's particularly challenging about a judgmental relative is that their criticism often feels personal. It's easy to internalize their harsh words, especially if they come from someone you've spent a lifetime loving and trusting. You may find yourself questioning the decisions you've made, wondering if you're truly on the right path. You might start second-guessing your choices, whether it's the way you handle your health, the people you spend time with, or the way you live your life. This emotional toll can be especially damaging in your later years, when you should be focusing on peace, happiness, and fulfillment, not self-doubt. But here's the truth. Their judgment says more about them than it does about you. A judgmental relative often operates from their own insecurities, fears, or regrets. Perhaps they see your independence as a threat, or your contentment as a reminder of their own unfulfilled dreams. It's not uncommon for people to project their fears and disappointments onto others, especially onto those who seem at peace with their lives. While their judgments may be difficult to hear, it's important to understand that they often come from a place of projection and not from a place of truth about you. The key to handling judgment is to protect your sense of self-worth and emotional well-being. It's natural to feel hurt by criticism, but it's important to remember that you have the power to decide how much of that judgment you will accept into your life. One of the first steps in managing judgment from a relative is to create emotional distance between their words and your sense of self. Remind yourself that their perspective is not your reality. You are the one who has lived your life, made your choices, and built your path forward. You don't need their approval to feel confident in the life you've created. It's also important to recognize that setting boundaries with a judgmental relative doesn't mean severing the relationship entirely. It means protecting your peace by limiting how much influence their judgments have over you. When their criticism starts to feel too much, it's okay to step back. You can politely but firmly change the subject when their comments veer into judgmental territory. You don't need to engage in every criticism or defend your choices. Sometimes, simply acknowledging their opinion without internalizing it can be enough to maintain your sense of peace. For example, if a judgmental relative comments on how you spend your time, you can respond with a simple, "I appreciate your concern, but I'm happy with the way I'm living right now." If the judgment continues, you can redirect the conversation towards something neutral, like family memories or current events. If necessary, it's okay to excuse yourself from the conversation entirely, especially if the judgment persists and starts to affect your emotional well-being. Another important step is to surround yourself with people who truly support and understand you. These are the people who see your worth, not just for the choices you've made, but for who you are as a person. These relationships are the ones that nourish your spirit and reinforce your sense of self. Seek out those who uplift you with kind words, encouragement, and a shared respect for your experiences. When you focus on these relationships, it becomes easier to deflect judgment from those who can't appreciate you in the same way. Forgiveness also plays a role in dealing with a judgmental relative. Forgiveness doesn't mean excusing their behavior or allowing their criticism to continue unchecked. It means freeing yourself from the emotional weight that their judgment might impose. By forgiving, you allow yourself to release any anger, resentment, or hurt that their words may have caused. This doesn't mean you have to accept their judgment as truth. It simply means you're choosing not to let it hold power over you. In the end, you have earned the right to live authentically, without the burden of judgment from anyone, even family. The years you've spent living, learning, and growing have shaped you into the person you are today, and that person deserves respect and understanding. No one, no matter how close they are, has the right to diminish your sense of self-worth. By setting firm boundaries with judgmental relatives, you protect your peace and maintain the freedom to live your life on your own terms. You deserve to be surrounded by people who see the value in your journey, who uplift you, and who appreciate you for who you truly are. And remember, your worth is not defined by their judgment. It's defined by the wisdom and grace you've cultivated throughout your life. 5. The overly dependent relative. Having an overly dependent relative can feel like a constant emotional and physical drain, especially as we enter our later years. The role of caretaker, which may have once been fulfilling and even rewarding, can shift into a heavy burden when it feels endless or unreciprocated. For many older adults, the desire to enjoy a sense of peace and self-care becomes increasingly important, yet an overly dependent relative can make it feel impossible to carve out the time and energy needed for personal well-being. The needs of this relative can consume not only your time, but also your emotional resources, leaving you feeling depleted, resentful, and overwhelmed. The dependency of a family member can manifest in many ways. They may rely on you for emotional support, financial help, or even physical care, sometimes all at once. While offering assistance to family members in need is natural and often a deeply ingrained part of our familial roles, there comes a point when this dependency becomes unbalanced. An overly dependent relative may not recognize the strain they're placing on you. Their demands might feel endless, and you may find yourself unable to say no for fear of guilt or the belief that it's your responsibility to help them. As a result, you begin to neglect your own needs, your own peace, health, and happiness in favor of theirs. This imbalance can take a profound toll on both your emotional and physical health. It's difficult to maintain your own mental and physical well-being when you're constantly meeting the needs of someone else, particularly when those needs seem insatiable. The constant demand for your time and attention can leave you feeling exhausted, frustrated, and, in some cases, even resentful. It may feel as though you're trapped in a cycle of caregiving that never ends, with no opportunity for rest, relaxation, or enjoyment. This kind of emotional and physical drain can lead to burnout, making it difficult for you to continue providing the care and support your relative needs in a healthy way. As we age, the role of caretaker can shift. While we may have once been the primary caregiver for children, spouses, or even elderly parents, the responsibility to care for ourselves becomes more pressing. We deserve to enjoy our later years, to have the time and space to focus on self-care, hobbies, relaxation, and relationships that bring us joy. The need for boundaries becomes clear. It's not that you don't want to help your loved one, but it's about striking a balance between supporting them and reclaiming the time and peace that you've earned. You are entitled to live your life on your own terms, without the constant weight of someone else's dependency weighing you down. Setting healthy boundaries is the key to navigating the challenge of an overly dependent relative. First and foremost, it's essential to recognize that you are not responsible for meeting every need they have, nor should you feel guilty for taking time for yourself. A healthy family dynamic involves give and take, mutual respect and understanding. It's important to acknowledge that just because someone is family doesn't mean their needs should take precedence over your own. You deserve to have your needs, desires, and well-being respected as much as they do. The first step in setting boundaries is having an honest conversation with your relative. It may be difficult, especially if they've relied on you for a long time, but it's essential to communicate your limitations. Let them know that while you care deeply for them and want to support them, you also need time and space to care for yourself. For example, you might say, "I've been helping you with X, but I need some time to focus on my own health and well-being now. I can't continue to be available 24/7. Be firm, but compassionate in your approach. The goal is to set clear boundaries without guilt or shame, which allows both you and your relative to maintain your dignity. Another strategy is to enlist external support. If your relative's dependency is significant, you may need to look into professional caregiving services or community resources that can assist them. This may include hiring a caregiver for physical support, seeking therapy for emotional or mental health assistance, or exploring local organizations that provide financial aid or companionship services. Encouraging your relative to seek outside help will not only lighten your load, but also give them the opportunity to build a support network outside of your immediate family. While it's important to show care and support, it's equally important to recognize that they have resources available that don't all fall on your shoulders. It's also important to delegate responsibilities where possible. If other family members or friends are able to help, don't hesitate to ask them for support. Caregiving is not a role you should have to shoulder alone. By reaching out to others, you create a network of support that can help balance the responsibilities and ensure that you aren't overwhelmed. At the same time, prioritize your own well-being. Schedule regular breaks, whether it's a walk in the park, time with friends, or simply sitting quietly with a good book. Reconnect with hobbies and interests that bring you joy. This can be difficult when you're accustomed to putting others' needs first, but remember, in order to care for someone else, you must first care for yourself. Self-care isn't selfish. It's necessary. If you're not taking care of yourself, you won't be in a position to help anyone else. Sometimes your relative's dependency might not be physical but emotional. They may rely on you for constant validation or emotional support, which can be equally draining. It's important to recognize that while you can offer love and care, you cannot be their sole emotional caretaker. Encourage them to seek professional help, whether it's through counseling or support groups, where they can receive guidance and support from trained professionals. This not only relieves the pressure on you, but also helps your relative develop healthier coping mechanisms and greater independence. Lastly, remember that boundaries are not permanent. They can evolve as the needs of both you and your relative change over time. Reassess the situation regularly and adjust your boundaries accordingly. If you feel that you're being stretched too thin, it's okay to recalibrate and reinforce the need for personal time and space. The key is to maintain open communication, be flexible, and always prioritize your own well-being. In conclusion, while caregiving and family support are important, it's essential to create a balance that allows you to enjoy your later years with peace, health, and joy. Setting healthy boundaries with an overly dependent relative doesn't mean abandoning them. It means recognizing the need for mutual respect and support. By acknowledging your own needs, reaching out for external help, and nurturing your own well-being, you ensure that both you and your loved ones can thrive. You've spent a lifetime giving to others, and now it's time to focus on nurturing yourself. You deserve peace, joy, and the freedom to live your life fully in your golden years. Embracing peace and prioritizing joy. As we navigate our later years, it's essential to recognize the power of setting boundaries with family members to protect our peace. Our time and emotional energy are precious, and we deserve to spend them on relationships that uplift, support, and nourish us. While it's natural to care for those we love, we must also acknowledge that our own well-being comes first. By establishing clear boundaries, we can continue to offer love and care without compromising our own happiness and health. It's not about distancing ourselves from family, it's about creating a space where we can thrive and enjoy the peace we've worked so hard to achieve. Take a moment to reflect on the relationships in your life. Are they nurturing and fulfilling, or do they drain your energy? Focus on the connections that bring you joy, laughter, and love. Surround yourself with people who see you for who you truly are and support you in living your best life. Remember, you have earned the right to prioritize your own well-being in this precious chapter of life. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that encourages you to live fully and authentically.